Welcome to the PaynePoints Podcast. We enjoy telling the stories of everyday people, whether that be small business owners, entrepreneurs, or people with a passion for their community. We want to highlight them and give them a platform to share their story. So grab your favorite beverage and join us on today's episode where we tell the story of someone just like you. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. I am Sarah Harbuck, your host for PaynePoints Podcast, and today we have Arrie Allen Tucker. Welcome. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. I'm so glad to have you here. I'm so glad Megan and Ro met you at the Vision Box.
Yes. That's
in
right.
Nacogdoches. It's a sort of new business. And she was like, hey, I found this guy that could be on the podcast. And I was like, cool. Yeah, let's do it. And you have a yoga studio. And we haven't had anybody on that has a yoga studio, so you are the perfect guest today.
Wonderful. I'm excited to be here.
Why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Well, my name is Arrie. I was born in Nacogdoches.
Okay.
I went to SFA.
So you're a native?
I'm a native. I went away for a little bit, lived in Chicago for a little bit, lived in Austin for a little bit, lived, in Virginia for a little bit. And, I realized that I loved living in Nacogdoches when I came back from Chicago in particular and saw the trees, and I was like, oh, I miss the trees.
Yes.
Not necessarily the people
Thank
or
you.
the environment or anything. It's just the trees.
That's what I miss.
I wanted to
I've
be in the
never met
forest.
anybody else who's had that answer because it's not the weather, it's not the culture, it's the trees. What a strange answer, but yes, I'm totally agree with you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Chicago has also got some brutal weather in the wintertime. And I don't know if you live there through the winter, but I've been there not in the winter. And even then it was like, whoa, yeah, this is extreme.
The time I was there, the year that I lived there, was one of the mildest winters they ever had.
Oh, how
It
lucky.
didn't snow until the day before I was leaving, which
Oh, my God.
was kind of beautiful and then also terrible because it's how do I manage all of this luggage and the snow? I have no experience with this.
Yeah, because it doesn't snow here. I mean, I know that we made the news last year for this snowpocalypse and the entire state was frozen over, but that is a once in a 1,000 years kind of situation. So yeah, missed the trees. Well, we're glad to have you back. You grew up in Nacogdoches, which is a town neighboring Lufkin here where we're recording today. Mm-hmm. What did you want to be when you grew up? Because yoga instructor isn't necessarily on the list of things most kids say.
Yeah. Well, the honest answer to that question is a Power Ranger.
Yeah. Okay.
Which in a way isn't terribly different.
Yeah.
Throw your legs around and talk to people, I guess. But then there was also a period where I wanted to be a doctor because my great-grandpa was a doctor. I come from a family of doctors.
Sure.
And then I realized I don't really like medicine that much.
Yeah.
But that's where kind of yoga starts to play in, where it's it is kind of that healing community, therapeutic stuff without necessarily having to do surgery.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be kind of terrifying. Also, I don't know that my bedside manner... My grandparents wanted me to be a doctor. Mm-hmm. They didn't have anybody in the family that had gone to college at that point, and no one in that higher level of profession. And I was just like, I don't know. No, people and their complaints drive me nuts. So I would be terrible being a doctor. They're like, my head hurts. Well, go take some Tylenol. What do you want me to do? I'd make a terrible doctor. So it's a good thing I didn't do that either. Mm-hmm. Did you go to school for business, or what did you do when you went to college? What was your degree in, or did you go?
My undergrad degree was in theater, of all things.
Okay.
Which again, since Power Rangers aren't real, closest thing would probably be an actor or a theater person.
Sure.
But even then, I got my degree in stage management, which is more of kind of the business element, kind of managing the actors, because I do work well with people, and actors they're people.
Sure.
Who knew? But
Eccentric
emotional people. Yeah. And I kind of loved that, and working with those different types of people, I found out, I'm really good at working
There's
with
probably more
people.
job openings for that kind of thing than actor or actress, because that's kind of a luck of the draw situation sometimes. Yeah. Interesting. So theater is your undergrad.
Yeah, and then I got my master's several years later in transpersonal eco-psychology.
I have never heard of that.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Because, I joke, it's it's a degree in tree feelings. because transpersonal psychology is the psychology of like going beyond the self. So
Okay.
it's a non-pathological psychology. It's not counseling. It's
Sure.
more about like how do you engage with the world. So
Okay.
it studies things like meditation and ritual and peak experiences, hallucinogen use, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
And it had this special.
I didn't know that
specialty
had
in-
a special name.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
yeah, and then I got the speciality in eco-psychology, which is, psychology as if the whole world mattered.
Right.
So how
Being in
place-
tune with nature and all that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
how place affects your psychology and how you affect places, and that interrelationship between humans and nature and other people and community and
That would
environment.
be fascinating to study.
It
Is it? I mean, obviously, you're a yoga instructor, so there is a lot of that sort of ideology. I've taken yoga classes. If anybody listening has taken a yoga class, you know that there's a lot of this. Be mindful of your body and the world around you and the space around you. Kind of talk whenever you're in a class. So I can see that being very correlating together. But how would you apply that outside of that world?
So a big part of the field is working with like conservationists and environmentalists. So
Okay.
eco-psychologists a lot of times work within those organizations to help reduce burnout. And, how do you actually convince people that, climate change is real?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
other than like go outside, you can see it and feel
Right.
it
Yeah.
at this point. So, it doesn't have a great career outcome.
Sure.
Unfortunately, I'm still
one of those
like I'm a
things you
yoga
have-
teacher. I'm not an eco-psychologist, even though I have a
It's one of those paths you have to kind of carve out on your own, I'm sure.
exactly. Like
So.
I would definitely do it again if I had the choice. Like it changed my life. It changed the way I see the world. I can think so much deeper and more with more
Empathetically?
complexity.
Yeah.
Not even empathetically. Like I was already a pretty empathetic
Sure.
person, but I can have not only empathy but logic and this kind of transpersonal element of I don't have to understand it and I don't have to feel it to respect it.
What's interesting is that a lot of people who go into like rehab for any kind of addiction or issue, they have, depending on the facility, obviously, the nicer ones that are probably more expensive, they have a lot of sessions, from what I've been told, where they make them commune with nature. Either they do gardening projects together, or they do the equine therapy or animal therapy of some kind, where they spend a lot of time with animals, grooming and taking care of them and training them. And then just doing stuff in nature, hiking and things like that. And so I imagine that stuff doesn't just come from, they were trying to get over a drug addiction, so we put them in the fresh air, they'll be fine. There's more to it than that. It's the, hey, if you get out into the world and you see that that's a much more, interconnected thing than just you alone, and that's why they introduce that kind of stuff whenever you're doing those kinds of therapies, because it really does help people. If they're in the place to receive it, obviously, you can't just stick them out with a horse and be like, here, this will fix everything for you.
Yeah, because I think there's a slippery slope when you're talking about it to getting into the like, oh, you don't need to take any kind of medications or go to the doctor.
Sure.
Just go outside and everything will be fine.
Right.
Which for a lot of people
They
is
do that in
probably,
conjunction with,
there's a reason medicine exists.
Sure.
And trust doctors who say that.
Yes.
And also acknowledge that doctors' scope of practice is very small. They largely only know what their specialty is.
Sure.
So you might be able to help yourself and heal yourself and empower yourself in a lot of ways by taking the medicine, feeling a little bit better, and then spending some time outside, communing with nature, connecting with the more than human world. And, there's no one right answer.
Yeah. I know whenever I'm feeling like just not great in my headspace, going outside, taking a walk, watching my breathing, doing a yoga or a Pilates routine or exercising of some kind. And I'm not a person who advocates for exercising. I'm just not. And if you know me any long term, you're like, well, yeah, she hates it. But I've seen that it has a positive effect on your mental health when you do those things, and I would be outside all the time, except we live on the surface of the sun and with triple digit heat for the last 8 weeks. And so it's really hard to be outside. But anytime it's gotten cooler in the evening and the wind blows at my house, I'm outside sitting on the porch, reading or doing something where I'm not confined to my house. The air and the trees, That's what I would miss most about here,
Yeah.
so that's why I like being outside. The fall and the spring when the temperature is just right, like you'll find me outside a lot. And I'm not one of those like nature-y people who wants to go camping. So I'm kind of like a weird dichotomy between I love being in nature, but I also like to be able to go inside and have running water.
Yeah. It's like I want to stay at home, but I also want some nature close by.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's why we built our house in the middle of a forest, because I was like, this is like the perfect spot for someone like me.
I have a question. I know I'm off mic, but do you find that like doing yoga or things like that outside is more beneficial to people?
That's a good question.
That is a good question. And I might surprise you by saying, no, I don't think it is. Because yoga is an individual practice in most senses. Like its core practice is you connect with yourself, go inward. So less distraction, less environmental input is kind of important for a deep yoga practice. Even some of the deeper practices are learn how to shut your senses off, go in deeper so you're not distracted by the sound and everything.
Like meditation.
Yes, it is.
It is very meditative.
Well, there's kind of different types of meditation too, where like, and yoga as meditation is more of an individual practice. And that's one of the things that really drew me in about eco-psychology was kind of adding that extra layer on top too, where it's like, yeah, you need to do some self-work and some self-inquiry, but we are social beings. Humans need other humans. We need other animals. We need other life to live. And so how do you manage those differences? And it was kind of earth-shattering because we come from a kind of fiercely individual society. And yoga kind of plays into that a lot too, of like, you can fix all of your own problems. If you just go in deep enough, you can solve everything. And then there's this eco-psychology that's like, well, actually, no, you can't. Sometimes you need a hug.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get over loneliness by yourself.
Yeah.
You can't get over lack of care by caring for yourself. You need someone else to do that. You
Right.
need a society and a culture and an environment that facilitates that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now, there are different types of meditation. So, like, more mindfulness-based meditations are more about engaging with your environment, your surroundings, taking in the senses. And those are great to do outside in nature. Even, this is where it gets a little esoteric, but looking at where your sense of self starts and ends.
Right.
So you can do some yoga practices outside, but I would say those are almost more advanced because you're looking at how am I the same as the
Right.
trees, the ants, the bugs that are biting me. And
It takes a little more concentration, I would imagine.
yeah, I would say probably depends on your constitution. There are some that could do that more easily than doing this sitting by yourself thing.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like I sat by myself a lot growing up and did that a lot. So I'm kind of good at just sitting down and shutting up.
Right.
I also played out in the woods a lot. So I'm fairly good at just, going and talking to a tree for a little bit.
Yep. You and my husband would get along. He likes to do that. He likes to talk to trees. People kind of look at him funny when he says that, but he's just like, what do you mean? It's a living thing. I asked this question to everybody who's sitting in that chair, what do they do to set themselves up for success or positivity in a day? And a lot of people answer or have in the past, yoga or some sort of meditation or, reading their Bible or whatever the case may be. So what does Arrie, a yoga instructor, what does he do to get started on his day to set himself up for positivity and, success for that particular day, or however you want to look at it?
I would say rest relentlessly. Like, don't work so hard. Because a lot of times I wake up with anxiety and I want to start doing or moving right away.
Sure.
And so, in a way, doing that. When I feel motivated to do something, do it. And when I don't feel motivated to do something, take a nap.
Yeah.
Go rest. Take it easy.
That's in direct conflict with most of our society's viewpoint, though. Like, it's hustle, 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 do the grind, work, 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 And I feel like we've taken and swung the pendulum so far in that direction. We need to pull it back towards this more restful.
Yeah.
Everybody's burnt out.
Yeah.
Everybody I talk to is just completely and utterly burnt out. I mean, the last 2.5 years haven't helped with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's where everybody is. So I think the rest, that is a good idea. I mean, a good bit of advice.
And I'd say too, like, work when you want to work. Because I'd say humans by nature want to work. They want to be in community. They want to do things that are fulfilling and satisfying and engaging. And if you're not doing that, then what's the point? And you'll want to do that. Like, you'll want to get up and go to work in the morning if you're getting that job satisfaction. So even it's kind of some self-inquiry there, looking at my life, looking at my choices. Like, what am I doing? What have I been doing?
And
is this bringing me satisfaction?
We're seeing that change in real time in our society, because you see all these people leaving jobs and not going back to them, or not, they've got a retail shortage. There's not enough people working in restaurants and things like that. And it's not because there's a shortage of people who want to work. It's a shortage of people who want to put up with the abuse in those situations. And they've chosen to take jobs that are more freeing, if that's even the way to say it. I see all the commentary, I hear all the commentary about how people just don't want to work anymore. I think they just don't want to work in jobs where they are verbally and sometimes physically abused by people who come in, and they don't want to. It would make going to work and being a participant in that scenario you just described very difficult, because they're not getting any kind of rest or job satisfaction. They're just doing it for a paycheck. And I understand that people have to live, they have to eat, they have to keep a roof over their head, and not everybody can do a job they love. But having some kind of a job where you don't just feel miserable going every day, I think is also important. You don't have to love it maybe, but you have to not hate it.
And I think that's worth challenging a little bit too. It's like, not everyone can have a job that they love. Why not?
Yeah.
I
agree.
Like, with technology developing as it is, let's automate more jobs that nobody wants to do and let them do that. Let's work towards a universal basic income so people don't have to strive and sell and try to push their product in a way that doesn't really work for them.
Because
Instead,
not everybody fits in that cookie cutter.
Yeah.
That I feel like,
for me, like as a yoga therapist, it's like, I don't necessarily want to charge people for my service of like helping you connect in with your inner self and your inner being and knowing all of these things. But I also have to sell it. I'm working through that process right now too. Of it's like, oh no, like I have to do this stuff that's totally counterproductive to the actual work that I do in order to even do the work that I do.
I know, it's kind of bananas, isn't it?
Yeah.
What it's all of that. What or who inspires you that keeps you motivated?
What or who inspires me?
Or did I just put you on the spot?
I mean, I thought about this question earlier, and I am like drawing a blank on, like, I wrote a whole little paragraph. I remember writing it, but I'm not remembering who or what
that's
inspires me.
You might think of it later.
Yeah, but lately I haven't been feeling very inspired, and that's kind of one of the things that was exciting about doing a podcast. Was it's like, oh, maybe just getting in front of people and talking will help inspire something.
Yeah.
So
it's been a rough couple of years to feel inspired. There's been so many things that just kind of drag on your like mental health and energy, and you're inundated with information just constantly from all these sources, and it's really hard to stay motivated or to feel inspired. So if we can do any little bit of that through talking to people and hearing their journeys, that's great, because I struggle with that a lot these days. I was telling my therapist last week, I was like, this is the first time in a long time where I've just had this like uncanny and like surprising calm just come over me, and I don't know that I can pinpoint exactly why, but it was just kind of like this realization that I can't control everything that's going on in the world. I can't fix it all. It's not, and so I just have to accept what is right now and cross whatever bridge might come in the future that might need a decision to be made or an action to be taken, but I don't have to do that today. And I think that realization just sort of just washed me with this, it's okay today.
It's okay today.
It's okay today. And so that actually really helped, kind of like keep me from having this like constant anxiety that I was suffering from, it seemed like for the last 2 years. If that can help inspire somebody, great. Take my journey and use it.
Well, I think there's a level too. It's like you don't necessarily need to be inspired to do the work and to wake up and go into life. Yeah, it's a lot easier to go do things if you're inspired to do them.
But you don't have to be.
There.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to do it, and there you go. Do you have any hobbies outside of yoga that you want to tell us about?
I'm not sure. Yeah, this is kind of a hobby. I've been getting really into astrology recently.
Okay.
Because I had the realization maybe like a year or so ago, that it used to bug me so much, all these like esoteric things they would say about yoga or like misrepresent it in a way that's like, yoga is weird and not good if you look at it from that way, but that's not what it is really. It's like if you just see it as stretching, it can hurt your body and do these weird things. And if you look at it too from a religious lens too hard, then it's a little weird and it doesn't really work. But that's neither one of those things is really what it is. It's more complex than that.
Right.
And then I had that realization with astrology of it's like, oh, this is one of the oldest sciences in existence. Like this is what the ancient philosophers that we seem to worship so much, they studied astrology too. Like that would have been one of the classes they took and taught themselves.
Right.
So why not give it a little more
our modern day views on things that we don't completely understand are interesting, because I feel like so much of stuff like that gets filtered through this lens of religion and stereotypes that get like put on that stuff. And so, when you talk to some people and you're like, oh, yoga, that's real new age and and you're like, well, I mean, I guess it could be that. I don't know. I like to do it because it helps. I have a lot of back problems. It helps stretch out muscles that are tight, and and you said it's not just stretching, and it's not, but that's what I use it for a lot. It helps gently stretch things that I wouldn't be doing the same way if I wasn't following this instruction. So it's interesting that so many people take their stereotypical views and because our society has shifted so much since those things were so commonplace, and now they're looked at as other and weird and like, oh, that's some sort of like fringe thing when it used to be so commonplace. Now obviously when you learn new things and new ideals and science gets tested, that maybe isn't as accurate. But it is an interesting way I don't see that as any different than any kind of religious practice, in a way. It's what helps you make sense of the world and understand what's happening around you. And if that's how you use it, then that's cool. That's my ideology.
Well, I think one of the things that I've been learning about astrology recently too is that it is not religious. It's not really spiritual. It can be. Some people, a lot of people talk about it that way.
Sure.
But really, it's more historical. It's like real astrologers are like, oh no, just the last time the planets were in this composition in the sky, these things happened. And like we can trace it back. Like the last 4 times this happened, this stuff happened.
Yeah.
So we can kind of assume
that's going to happen again.
Let's prepare ourselves.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the history of it. Yeah, that's very interesting. This, with the James Webb Space Telescope that they, all the news that's been coming out and all the images that have been coming, which are amazing, by the way. Yeah. I've heard a lot of like astrophysicists and things talking about how everything we see in those images are actually things from the past. We're taking a time travel back into the past when that light was like traveling to us. And it's very weird for my mind to try to like wrap around, but at the same time I feel like this is kind of the same thing. It's like the light from way back is kind of reflecting, where things were aligned here, and so I feel like that's kind of the same deal. And it's interesting that to like think about it in that way. It really just, I think, opens your mind up to a lot of possibility.
And this is my favorite aspect of yoga, or even transpersonal psychology in a more general sense, is that just different ways of knowing, different ways of seeing. So it's not about finding out what's right or wrong or what is or what isn't. It's
black or white.
Yeah. It's okay, this is affecting you in some ways. How is it showing up in your life? It's there, the moon is doing something right now. It's affecting you. Whether or not you notice it is one thing.
Well, our bodies are made up mostly of water, and the moon has a huge effect on the water in the planet. So why wouldn't it have a huge effect on us?
And like the sun, it is controlling the seasons. It's controlling how hot it is outside in a large way. The rotation of the planet, like it all plays in, and it's complex and it's nuanced, and there is no right or wrong answer. But that doesn't mean I have fun doing it. You don't necessarily have to have fun doing it. But looking at all the nuance and complexity and like, oh, okay, I see how that's playing in, or oh, that's not a very strong influence on me, but I see it being a strong influence on somebody else. And it's, very much in alignment with everything I learned in grad school too. It's like, oh, this is just kind of a different application of that thought process.
I went through a period about 10 years or so ago, well, maybe more than that, 15, where I was really into numerology. Like I really enjoyed just like reading about it, and like I don't know what I think about all of that, but I like really just, it was interesting to me, to put all that stuff together, and how, when you were born and where you were born and all that can have an effect on, things for your life. And the patterns that your life goes through are, based on things like that. And I mean, some people are like, that sounds stupid, but I found it interesting. Whether or not you believe it, that's one thing, but I just was like, this is fascinating to me, and I want to understand how this could have an effect on my life. Numbers, like what?
I think that's so fascinating too. Like, more recent psychological research shows too, or like researching into like the placebo effect is so interesting to me. Of like, your mind controls so much of what happens. Your beliefs about how something will affect you changes how it affects you.
Yeah.
So why not get out ahead of that a little bit? And it's like, well, what else could I be thinking?
Right.
If I don't like the way that I'm living my life right now, if I'm not necessarily fully satisfied, what different ways can I approach it?
Yeah,
not looking for a solution, but just looking for different ways to see what's happening.
I like to be open to the possibility of any of it. None of it has to be real, or I have to believe it 100%. But I like to have that. If you have something different that's what normal is, and you're like, I want to tell you about this. I'm like, I'm going to listen, and take away whatever nugget of truth I find in whatever you have to say.
Ooh, yeah, just take whatever nugget of truth you can find. I love that.
I mean, it's just kind of like, to me, it makes you a little bit more, I think you can, any kind of religion or belief system or any of that kind of stuff, you can glean lots of things of wisdom and ways to live your life. I don't necessarily have to build a whole like monument to it, and just take the little things that have helped and applied to my life and use them in whatever way I can. And the rest of it, I don't have to, that the numerology, I don't know that I'm going to base my entire life around that, but I found it amazing that there were, I did my chart and was like, my life actually fit the patterns. Now, was that a placebo effect, or was it an actual thing? I think it, because it, like, here it is written out in black and white, this is what my life pattern was like. And I was like, well, that major event happened then, and this major, just like this says. I mean, who knows? But like, it was interesting and fascinating to know, like, I'm making the same mistakes over and over again. And that is part of the pattern in my life. And so if I can recognize that and kind of get out of that habit,
Or even stop trying so hard to get out of the habit. And it's like, this is part of who I am. I'm a 4, and I'm going to feel this way about things.
I'm just going to keep making mistakes. That's just my life's goal. Anyway. Yeah, so it's fascinating.
I have a quick question. You're into astrology. Are you a Virgo?
Yes, I am.
I knew it.
My birthday's in a few weeks.
I could glean that from you. And I had to say it before we got any further. I was like, you are a Virgo through and through.
I have a question where I was going to ask that.
I know, but I had to say it because I thought
I have to call it out so people know, like, it's real.
Megan's like, I have to get it out there on tape so that everyone knows I made this prediction. No, I'm just giving you a hard time. Well, we have actually reached the point in the interview where we do these like rapid fire questions. And so I ask, and you just like come up with the first thing that comes to mind. Okay. We already did this in the sound check, but what did you have for breakfast?
I had some honey roasted peanuts in my car on the drive over.
That's a good choice. Do you drink coffee? And if so, how do you take it?
Yes, I drink coffee, black. And I also had a couple cups of that this morning, too, before the peanuts.
Same. Do you have a favorite song right now?
Favorite song right now? Yes. King by Florence and the Machine.
Okay. Are you currently watching a TV show? And if so, which one?
I just finished rewatching Avatar: The Last Airbender again.
Okay. Nice. Anime fan. What is your favorite book?
Favorite book? Recently it's Imaginable by Kelly McGonigal.
Okay.
Not Kelly, Jane McGonigal.
Okay.
They're twin sisters. They both write great books. I recommend reading
Fiction?
all of everything.
Nonfiction?
Nonfiction.
Nonfiction. Okay. Favorite flavor of ice cream?
Mint chocolate chip.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Yeah. Sweet or salty?
Yes.
Beach or mountains?
Ooh, that just makes me remember going to Greece and seeing beach right
and
next
mountains.
to mountains. So I would like to say both.
Yep, there you go. That's a good one. Zodiac sign we know is Virgo.
I am a Virgo sun, Taurus moon, Sagittarius rising.
Wow.
If I had to guess, it would have been Taurus. That is uncanny. And I was like, okay, I was going through this. Sorry, this is like totally off mic, but this is like, I'm also really big into astrology. I was like, he's got to be a Virgo. If not Virgo, Taurus. And if not Taurus, it's probably Sagittarius.
Here I am.
There you go.
I'm living my life according to the stars, apparently.
There you go. You're doing it right, I guess. Spring, summer, fall, or winter?
Winter.
Oh. Texas winter or
Texas.
Winter?
Any winter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Introvert or extrovert?
I mean, I am an introvert. I prefer extroverts, though, so, you know.
Yeah. I can be both.
I want to be the quiet one in the room. I don't want to be the loud one in the room.
Yeah. Yeah. Nowadays, I'm more the introvert, definitely. What's your favorite color?
Blue.
Same. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Ooh. Yes.
Yes.
Answer.
I've actually seen the question, is a hot dog a taco? And that incites violence with some people. What's your favorite social media platform?
Right now, TikTok is doing it for me.
Yeah. What is it about TikTok? It's so
I
funny.
think it's the oral transmission of information.
Yes.
It's
like
we're going
old time.
back to speaking about things.
People sat around a fire in a cave and told stories. Is
and
what
we're sitting
that feels
around
like.
ring lights and cameras telling stories.
Modern day equivalent.
It's the same thing.
I love it. I love these reaction videos of these people doing, like, you know, cooking something nasty. It's these old black women, you know, judging it, you know, like, why do y'all not season your food? You know, and I'm just laughing right along with them going, hey, that's white nonsense over there that I don't do. But I totally get it. Or like funny pet videos, or, you know, I try to stay away from the super serious stuff because it just makes me depressed. But like all the other stuff, I really enjoy it. So
What do you watch on TikTok?
Lately, a lot of astrology stuff has come up.
Yeah.
I'm on lesbian TikTok for some reason, and I am so pleased to be there. Like, I didn't know that I needed that.
yeah, they got some good energy on that side.
Yeah. What else? Of course, cute cat videos come up all the time.
Cute cat
I do look at the serious stuff a lot too. So there's some like
I do too, but I try.
statistical like leftist stuff that's kind of fascinating about like, oh, that's why they say that. Oh,
Yeah.
that's kind of cool.
I do like the stuff that's based in the history of something.
Yeah.
That's more like social activism or whatever's going on, you know, in our culture right now. Like, this is the history of it versus the like opinion feelings of it all, you know, because I feel like that just gives my blood pressure like a
I don't remember her name, but there's this one woman who's like an anthropologist or something, and she will just get drunk and talk about random things in history, and it's
that sounds like fascinating.
So well researced and like referenced, and
We need to
just
become friends on
so
TikTok, and then you can send me her videos because that
Let's-
sounds like
let's do
something I
that.
would watch.
Okay.
Well, let's talk about your business for a minute. You have a yoga studio or yoga business. I saw on your website that you actually practice in several locations. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm mostly online at this point.
Yeah.
So if you want to do
Did you pivot
sessions,
during the COVID, or was this something
yeah,
after
it was
the fact?
kind of
a pivot.
pivot / you know, everywhere's closed, so you need to start doing something. And
Right.
then I am a yoga therapist too, so there's this layer of working with yoga therapy. It kind of works online because there is this level of dialogue.
Sure.
Yeah, you can't do some of the things like, you know, hands-on assists and, you know, energy work kind of works a little bit better in person sometimes, but it does translate pretty well with a camera and a microphone and it even works better sometimes doing things at home because you're in the safe, calm environment that you have complete control over.
Right.
So you can go several layers deeper just because of that.
Well, and also
Sometimes.
too, you can really broaden your clientele range
Yeah.
if you offer online.
Yeah.
And you're
Hey,
not
I don't know
just
if you know this,
limited.
but not a whole lot of people in the East Texas area want yoga therapy or know what it is.
Yeah.
So
No.
hopefully this will help.
What is yoga therapy?
Yeah.
Yoga therapy is applying yoga philosophy in a therapeutic sense. So it's somewhere, I like to think of it like halfway between mental health therapy and physical therapy.
Okay.
In a way. Like in practice, it kind of looks similar to both of those, but not really either one of them. So it's more holistic. It's pro-symptom. So I'm not here to fix your back problem. I'm not here to cure your depression. I'm here to help you sit with it and figure out what's at the core of it, you know.
Okay.
One of my favorite sayings about yoga therapy is what's in the way is the way. So it's
Okay, I like
this
that.
almost, I hesitate to use the word spiritual, but it's almost more of a spiritual kind of count.
No,
It's
I hear
probably
what
like
you-
right in the middle of a spiritual counselor, a physical therapist, and a mental health therapist.
The Venn diagram is basically a circle.
Yeah. And so it works looking at the whole person. So some people, it's going to be more physical, like some people it's going to be more mental, like some people it's going to be more transpersonal or spiritual, like, and it kind of accepts all of those and looks what's happening right now, what's showing up in your life right now, and let's address this here. So you might have sat in your car for 15 minutes before coming in with a whole list of things you wanted to work on, but then you get in the room and something else shows up.
Yeah.
And that's more of what yoga therapy is interested in, is moment by moment, what's showing up. Let's do
so
that.
if you don't mind and you're willing, can you kind of walk us through what a session would kind of look like? If say I was going to book something with you, or somebody who's listening was like, you know what, that sounds like something I would want to do. What can they expect?
Okay.
Is that an okay question?
Yeah, that's a great question. So probably a small little dialogue, like what's showing up in your life? How have you been since the last session? Or who are you if I don't know you?
Yeah.
So a little bit of intake, a little bit of the history, but not necessarily too much. I don't need to know everything. Unlike a mental health clinician who needs to know everything. I don't. What's showing up? What's the big thing?
What's the thing right now?
Yep. And then kind of moving into some movement, faster movements, little quicker movements, just getting you into your body, out of your head a little bit.
Okay.
And then the sequence would kind of progress based on what you've said and what's showing up, what I see, what you say. So there is kind of a dialogue back and forth throughout the process, but moving a bit faster and then coming into postures, so more like traditional yoga poses and stuff, holding a shape and kind of moving into an edge. So that place where you're not really comfortable, but you're not terribly scared and unsafe. And then just sitting in it and kind of watching what shows up, going deeper into the body, using those shapes and the sensation as a focal point to tap into the deeper essence of who you are.
Okay.
And so progressing through, kind of depends on the person, might be 5 or 6 different shapes or 2 over an hour. And so progressing, getting a little slower, a little deeper, meditating towards the end. Ideally towards the end, you're like meditating for 5 to 10 minutes and you don't even realize that it's that long.
Right.
And then from that deeper space, kind of asking yourself for clarity, getting that deep information. And then that's where kind of I would come back in a little bit. So you meditate, you kind of get into your own little world. And then I'd come in and be like, okay, now how do you want to bring this into your life? What's showing up for you?
Yeah.
What has shown up in this session and how do you want to bring that into your life? Or how has it been showing up in your life? And do you want more of that or less of that?
Yeah.
And
okay.
So it's similar to what like a life coach might do, but again, it uses more body
Some
and
physicality.
more psychology. And
so when you were, you got your degree and your master's, and then did you take any kind of classes or certification in yoga, or were you a practicer of yoga for so long and a practitioner, and then you just were like, you know what, I can take my degree and this practice and mess them together, and like how did this all come about?
Well, I am currently in a yoga therapy training, so I'm at the point where I am a yoga therapist, but I don't have the full credential yet. So there's the International Association of Yoga Therapists that require certain credentials to get their full
affiliation.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I'm not quite there yet. Got a couple more months to finish off this course. But at this point, I'm in the like advanced trainings where in order to do these trainings, you have to be practicing. You have to be working with people. Right. So I hesitate to use it's almost like an internship with a counselor or a medical residency situation where it's like they're a full doctor, but also they're still being supervised a little bit.
Yeah. No, totally. I didn't know that was a thing. That's really cool. What made you? Was it just out of need in your own life? I've talked to people in this chair when they were creating their business. Well, I saw this as a thing that was missing, or I needed this for myself. So was that kind of the motivation in starting a business like this? And you said earlier in the podcast you struggle with the charging people for the service. How do you? I imagine that's got to be hard for someone like yourself who wants to help people, and yet you have to also deal with the business side of things. So how do you navigate those waters?
It's very hard because it's like I would prefer to just work for somebody else and get to do what I do, but there's no one else doing it.
Sure.
and I've tried kind of fitting myself into other businesses, working at yoga studios and at gyms and at a counselor's office, and it's just not working. So it's like, oh, I have to do this myself. I have to be the one to create this. I'm not a Leo. I'm not one of those people who just gets out and shines really brightly right away. So it's this feeling of, oh, this is kind of my dharma to do this, to put something out there, to let myself be seen and work with people. And I can start small. And that's kind of where I am now. I think before in my mind, I'd made it so big that it was like, oh, I never want to do that. I'll just work for other people. That's too much. I'm not good enough for that. And I was like, wait, no, I am. And I don't have to do that. Like, it can be way smaller. I can just work one-on-one with people, and I can have just an online business pretty much. So that's. I think
it's hard to run a business, especially when it's not really something you want to focus on. You want to focus on the aspects of the therapy or the actual end result that you are getting with your clients versus like spreadsheets and messaging and scheduling and things like that. So as your business grows, is that something you would bring on somebody to maybe help take care of the lesser, the more those are things I don't really want to take care of parts of the business?
My mom retired a couple years ago, and I've been trying to get her in on it. So I'm encouraged to see you two working together so well. It's like, okay, Mom, you're probably going to listen to this. This is me plugging you. Come help me.
Come help. Yeah. I mean, I will say that working with family has its challenges. There are definitely, it adds a different layer, obviously, than working with just strangers or other people. But if you can establish the boundaries and the defined, okay, this is what you're doing, and this is what I'm doing, and respect each other's positions, I think it can work. I think most people just like, hey, I don't know if I want to add that extra layer of drama in my workplace, because it can be sometimes. I mean, I think because of our family specifically, we've all just worked together on different projects over the last 2 decades, and then we brought our children in as they became old enough. It's just sort of normal for us, but I know that for a lot of people outside looking in, it's like, I don't know if that doesn't look good at all.
I feel like in a way it keeps me accountable. Like, I want to be the type of person who builds long-term relationships that are stable and secure. And it's like, oh, well, you're my literal mother. Yeah. I'm not going to put you out or fire you. Well, and it's like, whereas just some Joe Blow off the street, it's like, oh, you didn't do this thing the way I wanted you to. Yeah. Leave. Yeah. And not feel bad about it.
Well, and also too, your mom is probably going to take care of your business with the same level of respect that you would take care of your business. Oh, yeah. Typically you would think. So, if your mom wants to join you, Mom, come join him.
Or if anybody else has some brilliant business ideas, please let me know. I am open to a professional too.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes that's needed. You just like, I'm not a business person. I need help in this way or this area. So, we always say, hire the people that you need to. Yeah. And to do the work that you need to do. So, that's fun. Do you have are there any obstacles that you've come across in doing this business? Do you have people that message you thinking it's going to be like a traditional yoga class, and then you get into it and they're like, this was not what I was thinking it was going to be? Or does everyone kind of know right away?
A lot of people are really confused. I think the biggest problem is just getting people in the door. Like, people don't know, so they don't ask, and they don't look into it at all. And like I said, I'm not one to just kind of go around shouting what I do. Sure. So I need to get a little bit better about that. Like, talk about it. People are interested. People want to know.
You could start a TikTok. I'm just kidding.
I am an observer, not a creator. Yeah. But you are right. That is something I should consider. But yeah, just getting people in, because the general feedback that I've gotten has actually been exactly what you did. It was like, oh, that wasn't what I was expecting, but it was really good. Like, I wasn't expecting to go that deep. I was expecting, just a nice little stretch class. It's like, oh, it's like I feel more stretched and more open, and I did less. And it's like, oh, great. Yeah. Or, yeah, confidentiality. I don't want to go into anybody's story necessarily, but lots of tears and stuff.
I would imagine
unexpected.
that's got to be, you've got to be a really good, you got to be in a really good place of your own to be able to handle whatever doing a session like with somebody and all the physical, but also the emotional and the mental that comes with whatever that they're expelling or intaking, so that I would imagine that's got to be.
And that's where the actual yoga therapy training comes in. That's so helpful, because sometimes, people will start telling you a little bit of their story, and it's like, oh, this is almost exactly what has happened to me. And oh God, I can't handle my own stuff. Right. So having those skills and training to like, okay, no, I
compartmentalize enough.
Put that on. I'm going to have to deal with that with my own therapist later. But for right now, I'm here with you. This is about you and your practice and what's showing up for you. And
that would be the challenge, I would think. And so, the fact that you're taking classes and certifications to make that a thing that you can do more effectively is great. What do you have like a fun memory or something that you want to share with the rest of us this is why I do what I do. This is why this job brings me so much joy, or this is what makes all the hard parts about it worth it.
I often feel that way. Like, it's like I will leave the session like, wow, that was so powerful and good. And I try not to keep a whole lot of details in my mind again, because it's like the confidentiality element of it. It's like, but I've often leave feeling really empowered and motivated to keep doing it. It's like, well, that was really unlocked something. Somebody became a little bit more of themselves. And
so it's the interconnectivity with your clients that also it applies to the question earlier, what or who inspires you? Your own clients do.
Exactly. And that's a really good answer. I'm going to say that next time, because we are all interconnected. The more you open up, the more authentically you live your life, the safer the world is for me, the more open and authentic it is for me to live in this world and other people I love and care about. So you can't really do therapy with your own people a lot of times.
Sure, because they're going to just, let you get away with things.
Therefore, it's like, oh, if I can get these other strangers to be a little bit happier and healthier, maybe they will interact with my people. And then, so it's incredibly selfish for being such a selfless thing too.
Well, all the little mechanics of running a business, is there any advice that you would impart to somebody who might possibly be looking to do something similar or start their own business online? That's a service like kind of like yours, maybe not exactly like yours, but what advice would you give them if they're just starting out? What did you do, or what advice were you given that was very helpful?
I don't know that I've gotten any advice that I was like, wow, this was so good. But
oh, no.
What I've done is, and I don't know that I would actually recommend this necessarily, but it's what I've done is kind of wait and see. Like, opportunities will show up, and if you're so exhausted from trying to do something that's not working, you won't be able to take the opportunity. So again, take that nap, rest, relax, take it easy. Like, forcing yourself out there, doing all of these things that make you super uncomfortable and is so unaligned with who you are as a person, that's not going to help you long term either. That's not going to set you up for long term fulfilling success. That's going to set you up for having to do that more and more and more and more and more. So I'd say the rest. Rest. And
okay, that's actually not a bad answer. I like that.
And I would say it's different for different people. There are people who are, let's go to work and do it and just grind it out, and that works for them. And I've found the more that I work and try and do, the less it works for me.
Yeah.
Whereas everything in yoga for me has come so easily. It's like the more I just kind of like throw my hands up, like, okay, take care of me, it shows up, you know?
Yeah, I think the takeaway for most people is you got to do what works for you. And the rest of it will come, because if you try to fit yourself into a conformed idea that doesn't really fit with who you are as a person, I do feel like that can set you up for failure regardless.
Yeah, because especially if you are starting your own business, you get to do it your way.
Right.
And nobody else is you.
There's no rules, really.
Yeah, which is so frustrating. Like, just give me some rules and I will follow them. But I have to create those rules. I have to do that.
So what does your studio, what does your practice, what's in the future for you guys? What are you hoping to do? Are you going to expand? Are you going to bring on some more people? Or are you just steady as she goes?
when you've sent these questions, and that question, when I first read it, I was like, well, I hope it, dies and ends at some point. Like, that was my reaction, was it's like,
that is
well,
interesting.
I hope that, I get old and it has supported me and it has served the community well. And that's what I hope for it very long term, is that it just closes down and is done. And
interesting. I like that answer, though. I do like that answer. I think too many times we feel like we have to leave a legacy behind, and that's not necessarily, I don't really feel like I have to do that.
And there's a quote from the Tao Te Ching that came to mind. I looked it up. It was like chapter 17. And part of it says, the master acts. When his work is done, the people say, amazing, we did it ourselves. And so in a way, that's kind of what I hope for this, is that, people are empowered and encouraged and, live authentically and live themselves and don't even necessarily acknowledge that I was there helping them.
Yeah, that's the legacy.
Yeah.
There you go.
I
like that.
I want you to have your legacy.
Very good.
Which is a terrible business model, I must admit. Like, as I'm saying it out loud, it's like, damn.
It's okay. Not everybody has to be Elon Musk. It's fine. I would rather you be this way. Where can everybody find you? Tell us your website. Tell us your social media. I can't speak today.
You can find me at arrieallentucker.com, ARRIEALLENTUCKER.com.
Awesome.
And
all your social media is connected there?
All my social media is just my name.
Good deal. That's what you got.
And I should probably change that at some point, but right now
it's working
you get
for
to see
you.
all of me.
It's working for you. Well, we'll have this your website linked in our description. Arrie, it's been a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on and just sharing a little bit about yourself and your business and what you're doing. You are a very unique and wonderful individual. Thank you for coming on. That's going to wrap it up for us today, guys. Thanks so much for listening in, and we'll catch you on the next one. Do you have a story to tell? We want to hear it. If you'd like to be a guest on our podcast and share your story, contact us on our website at PaynePoints.com or any of the social media linked on our website. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. We'd appreciate a review, a like, or a comment to let us know what you think. You can find all of our podcasts linked on our website under the podcast tab. Once again, thanks for joining us, and we want to wish everybody a wonderful day.